Well, let's not get ahead of myself. Let's kick off today's daily review. And there is a report that a mother and child, a son, 8 years old, were killed, potentially in their sleep, although I'm not entirely too sure. The first one might have been killed in their sleep, and then the second one technically may have been awoken. The mother was found still alive, but severely wounded, and I believe died at the hospital. Whereas the little boy, they were both found by the adult's common law husband. The little boy, he was already dead when he returned back to the house after running errands or doing business or whatever during the morning. Of course, as much as on some levels it shouldn't really matter, but it does. We're talking the Christmas vacation. So now an entire community has to go through what should be a time of the year family, watching a family being murdered, essentially. And I guess part of the problem is, I'm not entirely sure if they know why, or if anybody knows why. I myself can't even begin to speculate something as to why. I believe the police have stated they do not know the woman. That is to say, she is not involved in anything that they know of. She is not suspected of anything. No reports either by her or with her as part of a subject in the report was made. And of course, an 8-year-old boy, yes, you know, obviously he's a shot caller for some gang, right? 8 years old. What could he have done? And this just goes back to what I said about, I don't want to hear how the murder rate is less than last year. If it was like 100 less than last year, then okay, fine. That's something. That's not even necessarily enough, but it's something. And it's not the only murder that caught my attention. Just want to mention, another gentleman, 42 years old, shot dead while constructing a drain at a recreation ground. Everybody around him are confused by all their accounts. And, okay, I don't think they were liars. Maybe they didn't know the gentleman, but by all accounts, he worked and he took care of his family. And how many criminals, they do construction when not doing crime on recreational grounds? Who knows, maybe he got a contract, maybe he pissed somebody off. But one of the things I do start to wonder with these two murders, first of all, it's the fact that they seem just callous. The gentleman, they just walked up and shot him point blank. The mother and son, they were killed in their home at some time between 8 a.m. and 10 a.m. 6 a.m. and 9 a.m., sometime between there. And it's the callousness, but I also do wonder if at some point now, normal people who just want to get along with their lives or not be involved will actually be targeted because they're normal people who don't want to be involved. Like, I do start to wonder if we're going to see more of that. That the whole situation is wants to suck you into the violence and be a part of the corruption because, you know, straight arrows stand tall, and if you stick out, you're going to get hammered down. But it's just, I don't necessarily pay attention to all the details of every murder, because at some point, it becomes too much. But this one in particular, an 8-year-old boy. And then now an entire community's potential Christmas is ruined if there are any other children in that area. What are those families supposed to think? He's just home because it's school vacation. And in 2 weeks, he's supposed to be opening presents under a tree. And I don't know if this is how we're supposed to live. Is this what life is? Life is hard. Don't get me wrong, folks. Life is hard. Life is challenging. Life is not easy. It takes a certain amount of strength just to live. But this is a whole different level. And I do really wonder, you know, if this happened to someone of significant note with regards to the annals of Parliament or what have you, if the response would be so much different, because it's almost as though it doesn't really register. Well, what are we supposed to do about it? We're trying everything we can, really? I don't know, you know. Honestly, no, you're not. I know you're not because there are things that you don't want to do because they might be unpopular and it won't help you in the next election. We know this. So we know that you're not doing those things. There are things that you don't want to do because they're too hard. And heaven forbid you actually have to do something that takes effort, that you can't just delegate, that you can't just go to a meeting, listen to some people speak, say, okay, yeah, do that, and then go and play golf or what have you. You know, I understand that the work of a politician is long, and it could be a lot, but that's what you signed up for. If everything was running hunky-dory, play golf all you want. But when people are dying, when children are dying, I don't know. I think there are about a couple hundred people that marched on Monday that would agree with me. I don't know if I really care to hear your recreational activities while parents are burying children. Or in this case, a common law husband has to bury his common law wife and his stepson. I don't know who else is going to bury them. All right, let's move on to the next story. And I'm going to switch gears now. This one is interesting. The unions leaders, so for all intents and purposes, unions, the joint trade union movement, is basically complaining about the fact that the president of the industrial court, Deborah Thompson Felix, she was apparently told via telephone while she is abroad that her contract will not be renewed with 2 days' notice. And they bring up the question of, because apparently she has some degree of fame with regards to her field internationally. And she was on a work trip. It wasn't a vacation or anything like that. And the union leaders are basically saying, well, first of all, this is kind of embarrassing, the way how she was removed. And in their opinion, it's poor industrial relations practice. But more importantly, for me, they're asking the question of, was she removed for political reasons? And I say political not to mean anything definitive, but in a very broad sense, as in she did something unpopular and they don't like her, so they want to replace her. Now, I tend to take everything that certain union leaders say with a heaping amount of salt. And then other union leaders, you know, I'll try and judge based on the merits of what they say, but still with the understanding that, look, they have a clear bias in anything that they say, right? Can't get away from that. They have a clear bias for their members, and that means that they're not always going to be objective, and they're not always, part of it is their negotiating position. They don't want to give up ground. So they might actually be stating things even, more extreme than what they intend or want to happen, because they have to start from an extreme position, and then as negotiations give way, they could negotiate themselves back down to where they actually want to be, right? Conceding along the way, when in reality it's not really concessions, right? They know that whatever they're asking for is ludicrous. At times, that's a tactic. Whether they apply the tactic or not, I'm not sure, but I assume that at some points they do that, right? The issue is, we live in a country where we have to, because I didn't even need to read the reports where they brought that point up, that she's being replaced for political reasons. That's one of the things that came to my head, because of the environment that we live in. Because just today, there are multiple stories with regards to questioning transparency of whatever process, right? So beyond the fact that now there's questions with regards to why was the contract not renewed, and to be fair, I also did think there could be actual legitimate reasons as to why they want to move on from her, right? There could be. But again, under the environment that we live in, the precedent set in multiple cases, the questions are answered in multiple cases, right? It's hard not to give some amount of credence to what the union leaders are saying on that front. First off, the opposition leader, she's come out and pointed out the fact that she has heard rumors that the Commissioner of Police will be gone by next year. I mean, can't fault that thought, right? Because what have we seen out of the fight against crime? But more importantly, she called the Commissioner of Police a puppet commissioner. And again, the precedent was set with regards to the Police Service Commission, which the actual commission exploded spectacularly and was replaced by what we believe to be more politically reliable individuals. Let's put it that way. But she didn't just call them a puppet. Well, call the commissioner a puppet, and I guess you could extend that as well. There's also the fact that she is questioning, for better or worse, the Elections and Boundaries Commission, because they are undertaking a national field verification exercise, because the electoral lists are about 22 years out of date for most constituencies. I think only Tobago has had the exercise undergone, and 14 seats, I believe, have commenced. Yeah, we have an election in just over a year, right? Now, granted, a lot of what she says, again, could be just speculation and political bacchanal. But in the environment that we live in, unfortunately, even if I don't want to take it at face value or take some of it to be true, people will, and I can't fault them. Because then there's also the fact that, look, here's the irony of another example. The Integrity Commission came out with a statement, we are not in cahoots with anyone. When you read the headline, and I found this very amusing, when you read the headline, one would assume, because it's regards to the whole townhouse situation in Tobago with the Prime Minister, one would assume, because I do believe that the opposition was questioning it, that statement would be directed to the opposition saying, we're not covering for the Prime Minister. But no, the Prime Minister apparently has gone out to say he's being targeted by the IC unfairly, and now the IC has had to say, we are not in cahoots with anybody to target you. I mean, we've reached the point now where both sides could question the integrity of the Integrity Commission. And I hate to say it, but I've reached the point where I don't know what to think about that. I don't know what to think about the Integrity Commission, because ironically speaking, I did wonder, how much could I trust in their ruling that there was nothing wrong with the Prime Minister's townhouse? It didn't seem 100%, to be all clear, but at the same time, it wasn't an issue that I felt and maybe that was wrong for me to underplay it, because people have been sacked for less. Boris Johnson got sacked because of a COVID party. But wait, there's another example. This is all in today's news of a lack of transparency or a lack of integrity. The minority leader of the THA is basically lambasting the THA secretaries for not answering questions with regards to their decisions, their expenditure, their behavior in their respective divisions. You know, and some of these things, there might be good explanations with regards to their travel and expenses and stuff like that when traveling, etc., etc. You know, and there are times when it might look bad, but there are good enough explanations. Of course, you holding public office should have all of your paperwork lined up, have all your ducks in a row. The problem is, and what gives his concerns legitimacy, is that back in September, the presiding officer has apparently said that she was disappointed in the number of deferrals to these questions that the minority leader has that, you know, the executive council asked for. And she called on the executives to do better. Let's not forget, she technically comes from the same party that they come from. I don't know if she has formally declared herself a member of the TPP, because as she's in a unique position as presiding officer where, you know, you left the party that won the election fine, but now the seat you hold is supposed to be objective. And kudos to her for pointing that out, because I think at the very least she understands the fact that, look, transparency could work for you. If you're deferring these things, it looks as though you have something to hide. So, all in all, you know, it's hard for me to now look at the union leaders, not lack of contract renewal. We're going in a different direction, basically. You know, that's one of the cliche lines used in that situation, right? You're technically not fired, your contract is just not renewed. But it's hard because we saw, for all intents and purposes, something similar with the Commissioner of Police, right? Not enough was given to the public to justify that entire controversial screw-up of procedure and political communication. It was a complete and utter mess. It was a stain on the criminal justice system, the National Security Council, and by extension, all those individuals involved. You know who they are, I'm not going to call their names. So, I don't know, this is just all in today's papers where the environment of the lack of transparency, lack of accountability, just has everything so obscure that we've reached the point now where I myself, I'm not even sure who is upright, who has the moral high ground in whatever situation. I don't know. Could you tell me? Because I really don't know anymore. Because it just seems like an environment that's festering. Corruption is just festering all over. A lack of accountability and transparency is just festering all over. In the words of in the immortal words of the Minister of Finance, we are fortunate that the PNM is seen as less corrupt. His words, not mine. Next story, quick, because this is and this is the last story we'll do for the morning, at least for this segment. There are two Defence Force soldiers that they won partially, it seems, their case with regards to promotions, because they basically contended that, look, the process was arbitrary, it wasn't fair, and we were more senior than the two individuals promoted. And these are high-level promotions. We're talking two lieutenant colonels who complained that they were more senior, and the process by which they were bypassed was not fair, because they were bypassed because the two people underneath them were promoted to Vice Chief of Defence Force, well, were promoted to act as Vice Chief of Defence Force and act as commanding officer in the regiment. And the judge agreed with that. The judge agreed with that, but I don't think, I believe they were suing for damages, not necessary to reverse the promotion, and I believe that they were awarded costs, but the judge agreed with them that the process was unfair. However, two things. One, the judge pointed out the fact that no, you are not entitled to a promotion. And then he called out And this is a quote that I think is important. The perception that in this republic, mediocrity rises to the top has to be altered, and focus must be centered upon attainment of excellence. This objective can only be achieved when competence, suitability, and efficiency are objectively rewarded in furtherance of the best interests of the organization. Because one of the reasons stated by the Chief of the Defense Force for his recommendations, he didn't promote, he recommended, was that one of the officers who was considered junior has more of a commanding presence, and I believe was in charge already of a unit. And it sounds as though to me perhaps the responsibilities of the two officers who made the lawsuit didn't necessarily, line themselves up for a command position, right? Now, in a larger military, I think this happens even more, where, okay, you could be a supply officer, but why are you going to be in charge of the United States 7th Corps, which is a heavy field army? I don't need a legal officer or a supply officer or communications officer. I need an infantryman or a tanker, somebody who is involved in a combat arm to lead a combat large military formation. We're small, it's not quite the same, but the judge points it out in his words. Why is it? Because their whole point was, we senior, we should get promoted. Why? And this is also a question about transparency and accountability. The Chief of Defense Force, his issue was he didn't line all his ducks up in a row. He didn't cross all of his T's and dot all of his I's. When he made his recommendations, he didn't finish the performance appraisals of the two officers who sued, right? So the process was fundamentally flawed because his ducks were all over the place, definitely not in a row. He had too many geese. So it's unfortunate, but his decisions might not have been wrong in principle, just that the process was bad. The judge agreed with him. But I like what Justice Prasad had to say, because this perception of mediocrity rising to the top, really and truly, and honestly speaking, remember what I mentioned, Kamala said Ayla should be out by next year? Well, that might be all speculation, but really and truly, what has she done in her time, except being, is it the first woman commissioner of police at that level? That's the accomplishment, which was by default. It had nothing to do with her ability, because we haven't really seen her ability. We've seen her lack of communication ability, and that's about it. Although, even though Minister Hines is a much better communicator, it doesn't really make a difference, right? So now we have to question, with regards to the TTPS, how much of it is the senior leadership mediocrity rising to the top due to politics instead of merit? Let's take a break. When we come back, the good lady should be here. Stay tuned.
Simon's Musical Supplies Limited. We are the specialist in new and used musical instruments, carrying top brands like Yamaha, Pearl River pianos, vinyl and Sabian cymbals, Remo and Evans drumheads and Fender guitars, just to name a few. Also a wide assortment of music books, pan and accessories. At Simon's, we service what we sell. Trust the leader. Call us now at 625-6412 or visit us at 20 Board Street, Port of Spain. Let the home store turn your house into a home you love. We offer household items, lawn and garden, paint center, hardware, plumbing, lighting and electrical, toys and storage solutions. And just for you this Christmas, come check us out for great gift ideas and all your Christmas decorations.
6 convenient locations: 6th Avenue Barataria, The Falls at West Mall, Pennywise Plaza Chaguanas, C3 Center Branch, Christmas Store at C3 San Fernando, and Eastgate Mall, Trin City.
Check out our Facebook page for more information and come visit us today. The Home Store. Turn your house into a home you love.
It comes naturally to us. Unstoppable energy. We use it to manifest a future. A future where energy takes new forms and is used in new ways for all of us. The new age of energy is here.
My name is Carl Media. I am the founder and the host of Ever Increasing Voice Ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.
Bill and Ruth fell in love with the Benjamin Moore color Dry Sage, but they tried to match it using another brand's paint.
I mean, it's close enough.
Almost identical, really. Yeah, there it is.
Never trust another paint to be a Benjamin Moore color.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays, 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN Content Capital.
FanZone, your reliable, authentic supplier, has just gotten better. You can now visit our website www.fanzonett.com for your authentic wear and collectibles. The only place where you can use both your Visa debit and credit cards. Visit our website fanzonett.com to make your purchase today.
Welcome back to Talking Point, ladies and gentlemen. It's just the conversations off air with the good lady herself, who I will now welcome to Talking Point, you know, right till the wire, and this time it went over the wire. Good morning, Karen. How are you?
Good morning, Sean. Yes, it went a little bit over the wire. It's true, and good morning to your listeners always. So glad I met one or two people recently who say they tune in all the time to listen to WSN, and what they like about WSN is how I think they figured the impartiality and the way in which we do not descend into bacchanalia.
Well, we can have heightened emotions, but we try not to have content that is bacchanalia. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Now, with that said, before we get into the scheduled discussion, you did want to mention something about, well, the whole Integrity Commission situation that the Prime Minister is involved with. I just find it's a bit of a mess with how it's kind of waffling. It seems like the perception of the whole situation.
Right, and that is true because Sean and I do discuss, as I've said it other times, what are we going to talk about today? And we try to get the topics that we feel are at the top of the news broadcast, and we are hopefully going to be speaking a little bit about the unitization of the LNG trains, the 4 LNG trains, and what it means to Trinidad, and our Prime Minister now joining the team in St. Vincent at the invitation of Dr. Anthony Gonzalez, and what it means to us. But I couldn't help but mention want to mention Integrity Commission. One, because I personally had my own, interaction with them, so I understand a certain level of frustration that anyone could feel when they believe they're being targeted by the Integrity Commission. And in my case, they had sent, at that time, my 2 lawyers, I'm going to call them out, Michael Kwamina and Douglas Mendez, just to see the quality of the lawyers I had. I had gotten a letter from the Integrity Commission making very vague allegations of criminal conduct that they sent to DPP. Bottom line, after about three rounds, and we reached any point where judicial review, time was running out, they finally conceded they didn't have anything, they're very sorry, and we apologize. Okay, so I've had my own experience with them, and you feel that it was not coming from the right place, and it made me lose a lot of confidence in the integrity of that commission. So that was my take on it. However, when the Prime Minister, I just want to make it clear for those who are listening, with regard to the land date matter, just to be clear, it was a preliminary hearing. The question of whether or not materials were moved from the hospital site to the Prime Minister's wife's project land date was never litigated, just to be clear. What was litigated and what he won on was the fact that the Integrity Commission sent a report to the DPP without letting him have first sight of it, which is a breach of natural justice, which would have given him an opportunity to respond to the allegations, and he was not given that opportunity. And the then judge, she's now at the CCJ now, Maureen Rajnorth Lee, stated that it was a breach of his natural justice rights, a right to be heard and a right to defend. But the question of whether the substantive matter, that was never litigated, and that people need to understand that was never litigated. So I think the Prime Minister should want to litigate it to clear his name, because that has stayed with him, just as how the Commission of Inquiry in the CLF has stayed with me, and he won't release it. I bet he could understand how I feel about him not having his own litigated and have his name cleared. So now, this new rounds from the Integrity Commission, one was with the purchase of a property from a friend of his, Alan Warner. And I mean, I don't think he says he's not his friend. I think that's a matter of public knowledge. And I think they said that he was cleared of that. But what is troubling to me is that it could be that there are persons in the Integrity Commission who are determined to get the Prime Minister for maybe not the right reasons, since I myself have had experience. But it also could be that they do have information and that they are determined that the Prime Minister answer the allegations regarding what they're saying. 3 contracts, they said, according to what I read, I think it's 3 contracts, which they said where preferential treatment was given to Alan Warner on the basis of their personal friendship.
Well, and yes, other politicians around the world, they have had to face similar, allegations from similar scenarios. You get a gift and then somebody gets a contract, and it doesn't have to be something big, right? Relatively speaking. But I do want to ask, because technically the Integrity Commission ruled on the gift, whether it was a discount on the townhouse or whatever. They ruled on that and said there was nothing to see here. So to some extent, because I do believe that both situations are linked, the award of contracts and this townhouse are linked. Should we like be questioning, you know, how is it that they're going to clear the Prime Minister? And
I don't know if that is true at all. The townhouse thing concerned the purchase, which they said that the market value was way below his market value, and therefore it brought into question.
So it's not necessarily...
But no, because they said they're contracts. They didn't say they had to do the purchase of a townhouse. And the other thing too, as a minister, you are allowed to receive up to, in America, everywhere, a certain percent, and you have to declare it.
Right.
They are talking about whether preferential treatment, as I understand it, was given to Alan Warner in relation either to the award of contracts on the basis of his personal friendship with the Prime Minister. For them to be so dogged about it and to be willing to pursue it, one has to conclude that there are persons who have come forward and persons who have come forward with something more than he say, she say, because you're dealing with a Prime Minister, and that's a very serious thing to do. And the fact that they have not let it go can mean one of two things, as I said. It can mean that there's somebody inside there that's out for him, no matter what, or it may be that there's something in it and they believe that they are not going to let it go because he's the Prime Minister. I think you remember that Farley Augustine himself, and this is the newspapers I'm going by, so please, I'm going by what was in the newspapers. Farley Augustine had said that he was being pressured from Port of Spain to pay Mr. Warner in front of other contractors who THA owed, and that he was getting serious pressure, and from high places, he didn't identify the high places. So there are two separate things. The purchase of the townhouse for less than the market value, that was being dealt with. This is a separate matter, but same person involved, meaning Alan Warner, who, there's no question, is a good friend of the Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister did say that he has claimed that it's 4 contracts, 2 were not actually awarded to Warner, and 2 were awarded by the THA, who, at this point, we do have to question, will they listen to those instructions?
Well, you know, the Prime Minister, I mean, if I'm being accused, am I going to say they're right?
Right, okay.
Oh, yes, what they're saying is right. All I'm saying is that clearly, I started by saying I have had a bad experience.
Right.
I said that. I also said that the issue of the land aid was never litigated. I think he should want it litigated to clear his name. He has not. And the third thing I have just said is that I'm separating the purchase of the townhouse, which has been addressed, from the 4 contracts. The Prime Minister, I can't say. All I know is that the Integrity Commission, either they have, there's malafidis, bad mind, which I don't put beyond the Integrity Commission because of my own experience, because of my own experience.
Exactly.
Because of my own experience. Or I would think you're dealing with a Prime Minister, and I wasn't a minister by the time they went after me. He is the sitting Prime Minister. So for them to be so dogged, and it's concerning the same Alan Warner, and you have Farley Augustine making those claims, there's something there that needs to be ventilated. And I would think for the Prime Minister, he should want to allow, you know, the process to take its course, because that is really the right thing to do. If that is so, he has lawyers. Let his lawyers talk for him. Let his lawyers deal with it. I mean, I guess because he's Prime Minister, there's politics involved in it.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it looks better for a good team of lawyers to deal with it and to put the Integrity Commission, if that is the case, in their place and end the matter right there. And then he could go and ramage on them. But until that happens, I think he shouldn't be doing that, because it's trying to, I could just use one example. With my matter, which was been considered my husband's death in a medical negligence case against Gulfview Medical and 2 other parties, he died in 2004, for the 17 years that the matter was being litigated through the courts, deliberately, in my view, being stalled by them, for whatever reason, I said nothing. And I said nothing because I did not want it to be said that I was trying to influence any party in relation, that meaning the judge, persons who had to make the decision.
Right.
And I think that's the better way to go, but then this is politics, and there we are.
I mean, yes, now there's a tit for tat between the Integrity Commission and the Prime Minister, you know, in public communication.
And we will have to wait and see the outcome.
I'd just like to point out, folks, that one cannot accuse Karen Nurse-Shera of having a bias to defend the Prime Minister.
Or against him.
Or against, because she is essentially pointing out the fact that, listen, we can't just assume that he's guilty straight off the bat. There's
I had a
room
bad
for this.
experience myself.
Exactly. Now, on to the topic that we were planning to speak about, because and it seems as though now, for better or worse, these things are somewhat tied together. Between the Essequibo dispute, our Dragon deal, and our involvement in CARICOM, and of course the entire energy world, because it involves Guyana, who's another player in global energy now. And this, I don't know, where did you want to start, Karen?
Okay, so it keeps on. I mean, the reason why we have to keep coming back to it, because it's a never-ending story. It hasn't died down. In fact, we've just learned that our Prime Minister will be joining Dr. Irfan Ali, as well as I don't know if it is Maduro, himself, President Maduro, or a representative, in St. Vincent at the invitation of Dr. Gonzalez in St. Vincent. Dr. Irfan Ali has made it very clear that what is not on the table is whether or not the matter is going to proceed to the ICJ and for them to make a final determination. However, clearly, efforts are going to be made to try to bring lower the temperature between the parties, and it is in our interest, and the Prime Minister was right to go, because we have a vested interest, and it just would not look good from politically or otherwise, optic-wise, that we have an interest in Dragon Field, which is in Venezuela, and yet we are sitting back and not participating. So it is a good thing that our Prime Minister, whether on invitation or otherwise, to join the discussion. Now, what has happened, and we have to give credit where credit is due based on what has been announced, and that is with the trains, 4 trains. I mean, no train one is not. Well, let's put it this way: until they get natural gas in that train one, Shell and BP said they're not putting any money in it. Okay, so. But what they did is they unitized into one commercial entity all the 4 trains. And what was the benefit of that? The Prime Minister there are 3 things that have come out of that. By putting all 4 trains as one, rather than 4 separate trains with different shareholdings, it is therefore making Trinidad and Tobago, through NGC, be more a partner in the marketing and distribution of the LNG. In a way in which it had not been. Now, it had a 10% share in Train 1, which we know is not going anywhere. Train 4, they had an 11.1% share in it. Train 3 and 4, they had nothing. With monetized by 3 and 4, no.
They had 11 and 4.
They had it in 1 and 4,
right.
but not in 2 and 3, correct, thank you. Right, so by taking all of them, making it 1, and giving NGC a 10% shareholding, it means they will have more say in the marketing strategy and the way in which the natural gas is going to be utilized upstream or downstream. So that has to be good. That has to be good on the face of it. But you have to notice, though, that BP and Shell says we haven't put any money in Train 1, in the Train 1 part. So it just reinforces that Train 1 doesn't have gas. But, oh gosh, give it up now. Give it up. Give it up. But what is the real issue now, and that is what there's been a lack of, even in the articles in the papers, they said there's been a little bit, a lack of, let's say, it's not very clear, a little opaqueness, for want of a better word. It's the access, the third-party access, because from my understanding, and I am not in the ministry, I am using what information I get from the various respected resources, international as well as local, is that before Shell and BPTT were the shareholders. China came out some time ago.
Yes.
And what they're now agreed, I mean, this has been going on for some years apparently, there has been agreement to have third-party access. What does that mean? It means a lot, because it means that other entities that can provide natural gas to the LNG, this new commercial entity can now provide natural gas in a way that they could not, because they were not part of the wells, either NGC or Shell or BP. Right. And the big player there, I'd written it down, hoping that not to forget it, is Touchstone. Touchstone has, I don't want to get it wrong, but I think it's 381 billion, yes, I have it right, 381 billion cubic feet on land of natural gas. And they found that in July 2020. And 80% of that interest goes to Touchstone, which is a Canadian company, and 20% to NGC, which is Trinidad. So that is a big development, because the issue is where you get the natural gas. One of the things was, of course, the stranded gas between Venezuela and Trinidad,
yeah.
Which I don't know how much you'd get that way. But even for people to understand, with Dragon Field, even though it has 4.1 trillion cubic feet of gas, the pipeline can only deliver between 200-300 million cubic feet per day. And similarly, Manatee, which is how they've turned out to Manatee, had Lauren Manatee, 70% of the natural gas is 10 trillion cubic feet of natural gas. 70% is on the Venezuela side. But even with Shell having to make a final decision in March, again, they can deliver by pipeline 200 to 300 million cubic feet per day. And what the Prime Minister said in September 2019, I don't think I'm misquoting him at all, he said that we are producing, all in all, 2.8 or 2.7 million, billion, I hope I'm getting it right, billion cubic feet per day. So that's not enough. We need 4.1 billion cubic feet to feed the downstream and upstream. So even when we get gas from, say, from Dragon Field, Manatee, the stranded gas, and even Touchstone, I don't think that adds up to 4.1 billion cubic feet, which is what they say is needed.
A day?
Per day. Yes, he said the optimum was 4.7 cubic feet. Just go back to September 2019.
Is a day or a year?
No.
Well, billion?
To feed both the, making me now go to question myself, per day, because for the Atlantic LNG, and remember the downstream is dealing with urea, methanol, ammonia. There's a number of products that they are producing, and all of them, their feedstock is natural gas. And so what he's saying is that so even with that, the pipeline being able to deliver that amount, it still appears that it will not solve our energy sector needs. And I just want to say there's one thing in relation to that. You check it. Just check September 2019 when he said it.
We have the capacity to process 4.2 billion.
Huh?
We have the capacity. So I believe through
energy,
we could process.
And what he said then, in September 2019, he said, ultimately we would like to get 4.7 billion cubic feet per day. We got 4.1 at one time. He said, but if we don't get up to 4.1, we are in dire circumstances if we do not get the investment. I'm just telling you what the gentleman said. And I'm telling you, that's how much is coming per day.
So then my question would be, and as it is on the screen, okay, so we might get a few million more per day.
Good few.
Would it be enough to meet, I guess you could say, like, because I don't know if the 4.2 is the minimum, but would we have enough to meet the needs for Point Lisas and our energy requirements and so on and so on?
Well, okay, so that's a whole big thing about that Dragon Field thing. Don't
count it before it hatch.
Yeah, right, okay, because what Maduro is now saying is they have a small pipeline at Guiria, I think you call it, they have built, taking the natural gas domestically for their needs. And he is saying, and nobody's buying, he's saying, you build a second one right there, process it, and then send 80% to the LNG and 20% to the downstream. Nobody buying that because they are concerned about whether he will change his mind at any point in time.
Yeah.
You see, so I guess when you add up 200, 300, you might get $1 billion. I don't know. But what I'm trying to tell you is, as it stands, humanity has been on, they have to make a final decision in March next year. This has been ongoing. So I don't want to be Debbie Downer. Please, I don't want to be Debbie Downer. I genuinely believe Venezuela is not going to no war. They cannot afford it. Okay? They could beat up Venezuela, they could beat up Ghana and put them on the ground. But if they go after Ghana, America says we are coming in because we are going to protect our interests in
It's not
Ghana.
even just American interest. The shock to the global energy sector might be detrimental to many economies and American trading partners.
Okay, but let me tell you something. I have a feeling Maduro is studying himself. Right?
My only issue is, I think a lot of people thought Putin would not have gone into Ukraine, right? And in hindsight, it seems as though it was a failed endeavor because militarily he's not achieving anything much. So
it's a different situation.
I know, but to me, Maduro is not at the level of a Vladimir Putin with regards to strategic thinking and capability. So I won't take it.
You saying that?
Yes, I am. Yes, I
don't
am.
know if I can say that. You have to remember, a large part of what is called Ukraine, Crimea, the southern part, was part of Russia. And a lot of the reason why they did not get objection from along that coast, that border with Ukraine and Russia, was because many of them are Russian-speaking, identify with Russia. So it's not. This is. We talk about.
I mean, yes, you could see parallels, but as far as I've seen, even Venezuelans and Essequibo don't want Essequibo to become. Don't want this whole situation to happen.
Of course, they don't want it.
And that's the thing. But my point is, you have pointed out where there's a much greater chance of American intervention here than I would say in Ukraine. When I say direct intervention, right?
Yeah.
And I'm saying Maduro might be crazy enough to think, well, you know, Vladimir got away with it, maybe I can get away with it.
No, because Ukraine is not a NATO country. And therefore,
neither is Guyana.
Yeah, but what the reason would be? And you see, when they said Guaido was president, they did it on the National Assembly results, and the world decided he was going to be president. What did that man say? Not too bright. What Maduro did? He stripped the National Constituency Assembly of all its powers, gave it to the National Assembly of all its powers, gave it to the National Constituency Assembly, and now he made that Maduro, that lady, Machado, 15 years banning her from taking part in elections. Do not listen. But the world says, be careful of Maduro.
That example works both ways, though. He's gotten away with it, and nobody stopped him. So he might actually think, well, I got away with that, I could get away with this.
But you know why? They have the largest supply of crude oil in the world, the 8th largest proven supply of natural gas in the world, and people have said one of the reasons why Biden has agreed to this 2-year license thing is not because he wants the LNG, because they produce their own LNG, but he wants the ammonia, the methanol, the urea, which is the downstream industry for which the natural gas is required. Now, I don't know, but what I'm trying to tell you, they are trying to find a way around it. One of the things they have done, apparently they've entered into a joint venture agreement, that is Shell, BP, and NGC. And what has been a big problem for Venezuela is they don't have cash. So my understanding that they were paid upfront $1 billion an equity share, so they gave them some cash. The thing is, we don't know all the facts. But what I'm trying to tell you is, this is the point I am going to end by saying. However it works out, good for our minister, good for the efforts that the government is clearly making. But what I am saying is, you continue to put all our eggs in the energy basket. Learn from Mauritius, learn from Dubai, learn from Jamaica, learn from Singapore. Every single one of them had a situation where they had a mono energy, one source of revenue for their country. And every last one of them read the tea leaves and started the development much earlier on of other streams. One example, look at Jamaica. Do you know in Jamaica, just alone employed in the tourism is a major foreign exchange. We need foreign exchange, right? 154,000 people, true they have a population of 3 million, okay, right? 154,000 persons directly involved in tourism, 354 indirectly involved in tourism. 10% of the success of the insurance and the financial sector comes from tourism. 20% or so comes from construction. What I'm trying to say is we have something no other country in this part of the world has. We have what Mauritius has, a cultural tourism product, and we're sitting on it. Why is it that the government cannot seriously take a hit from those countries? My goodness, I'm not saying don't pursue the natural gas. I'm not saying what you're doing is not right. But my goodness, start looking at earning foreign exchange. We are importing $8 billion worth of food in this country. And last point, I have to say it, because I couldn't believe it, but it is true. Of all the CARICOM countries, between 2015 to 2022, and someone made a criticism, said, why didn't I do Q1 2020? Maybe I should have, because I had Professor Dr. Roger Hussain on a show that I do. And what we do know, only three of the CARICOM countries have their economy has contracted, has gotten smaller since 2015. One, Haiti by 4%,
right.
Suriname by 30%. Guess who's the leader? Trinidad by 17.5%. And according to what he said, Professor Roger Hussain has said, the IMF, looking at all the data, you know what 2023 is going to be? It's going to contract even more to about 20%. So instead of the economy growing, it's contracting more than any other CARICOM country.
And I just want to point out, because the Minister of Finance keeps saying how much we've grown by year on year, but the point is, yes, we might have grown
year on year.
We might have grown from pandemic levels of economy to a recovery mode, so we're getting back to where we were. We're not actually growing from 2015, and you're pointing to the net. The net from 2015 is a shrinkage. And we know the main reason why, and it goes back to the point that you made just before. One source of revenue, fossil fuels. When those prices bottomed out and the industry could not give us the revenue that we desired, we were in trouble in 2017, 2018, 2019.
You think you'll learn by now?
We had Forex issues before.
You think they will learn?
Well, and the thing is, and it goes back to what the Prime Minister and the Minister of Energy were saying, we don't have all our eggs in one basket, and they pointed out two more energy things. So in the energy sector, yes, they have multiple channels that they're trying to go to. But at the end of the day, if the price of natural gas, falls out from underneath them, then all of those initiatives really don't matter, right? But
and 7,000 workers from Petrochen who were retrenched, and the water of the state called recasper. That's why all them holes you have in the road.
And I'll just say this, and the point that you were making from the top on this part of the talk, one source of Forex, why not have two?
3 and 4. The TTIFC, the agro-industry, anyway, we don't have, we've run out of time.
Well,
haven't we?
We could take a few more minutes, but
we
I
just
want to, because we have literally no agency at all. And what I don't understand is, okay, Stuart Young, the Minister of Everything, cannot literally do everything all the time. But what about the other ministers? And I do wonder to what extent if this is being curtailed because they're afraid they don't have enough resources with regards to the budget, or they don't have the right people. Because one of the things is we have not really made an effort to get good people into tourism, because I've yet to see good ideas.
Let me give you the answer. It's called leadership. And I'll give you the example that I use at another forum, and it's a good example, and that was Dubai. Dubai, I know people may not have known, but Dubai was a port trading area.
Like
if you see the boats that they used back in the day, you remember the pearl diving? They used a pearl dive, and many people lost their lives because it would just be a season. And then they discovered cultured pearls in Japan, and that was the end of that.
Right.
And many of those people literally starved to death. In 1969, under all that sand, Rashid, he was then the head of Dubai. In 1969, they discovered oil. Now, you think he sat down there and said, "Good, gonna make the most of that oil, boy. I good, next generation good, next generation." No, he did not do that. Today, Dubai has one of the most renowned international financial centers, one of the most upmarket tourism sectors in the world, and they're also into the fintech innovation hub in addition. Because you know what he said? This is what he is alleged to have said, because he read the tea leaves, which we don't seem to be able to do. He said, my father rode a camel. I drive a Mercedes. My son drives a Range Rover. His son drives a Range Rover. Because he's talking about how long the oil will last. And he said, but his son's son will ride a camel. You know why? Unless you do something with what you have and utilize it as you have it to develop other streams of foreign exchange, we'll be riding that camel. Your grandchildren, and that is a responsibility of a government. And that is where this government has failed the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Lack of leadership, lack of long-term foresight. Yeah.
Not long. That's just around the corner.
Well, now. It was long when this whole gravy trade started, but that's what, 7 decades ago? And now we've reached this point where we've wondered, how long will it last? And now we are potentially facing the beginnings of that reality. We're not quite there yet, but it's happening sooner rather than later. I think that's a fair assumption to make. Now, with that said, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll open the phone lines. We could talk about this and other topics that might interest you. It doesn't have to be anything that we spoke about. Stay tuned to Talk About on WSN. We'll be right back.
Naturally to us, unstoppable energy. We use it to manifest a future. A future where energy takes new forms and is used in new ways for all of us. The new age of energy is here.
Let the home store turn your house into a home you love. We offer household items, lawn and garden, paint center, hardware, plumbing, lighting and electrical, toys and storage solutions. And just for you this Christmas, come check us out for great gift ideas and all your Christmas decorations. 6 convenient locations: 6th Avenue Barataria, The Falls at West Mall, Pennywise Plaza Chaguanas, C3 Center Branch, Christmas Store at C3 San Fernando and Eastgate Mall, Trin City. Check out our Facebook page for more information and come visit us today. The Home Store. Turn your house into a home you love.
Maybe he landed here totally by coincidence. But if by chance he's admiring your fresh coat of Benjamin Moore soft sky blue, well, that's a pretty high compliment. Coming from an expert.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays, 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen.
Because it's silent.
It's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc? every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Psyched. Thursdays at 11:30 a.m. only on WESN, Content Capital. Welcome back to Talking Point, ladies and gentlemen. Not all the conversations is about politics. Sometimes it's a little bit less heavy, you know, and just for pure entertainment. But with that said, it's now time to open the phone line so you can join the conversation. And again, it doesn't have to be all of the heavy topics. It could be something lighthearted. It could be good news, as my co-host says. Give us some good news because, you know, after that 8-year-old being murdered, I really could use some good news because if I had any sort of any kind of faith that we could turn this crime situation around in short order, I mean that just died a very unfortunate death.
Literally.
No pun intended. But basically, yes.
So how did you interpret it then? That's what, because we did have that discussion.
I mean, you went a little bit further. My thing at the end of the day is, look, the thing that sticks out to me on that is an 8-year-old was killed.
Yeah, but then you have to go and you can't look just at what has happened. You have to look at why it happened because you can't solve it unless you go to to go to the reason that it would have caused that. So we all would, and I join with you, why a poor little young child living a little life to lose her life as a girl?
And to be fair, because I didn't necessarily make this point on it, but Karen was telling me I should have been more cognizant of this. This is most likely or potentially a victim of gang violence spilling over to somebody
message, you call it sending a message.
Right, and this is not the first time. This is not the first time.
And we're not saying that is the case.
Right, but gangsters killing gangsters, we're going beyond that point. I've said that before and we should say it again. We have a caller from St. James. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hello?
Hi, morning. You're on the air. Hello? Hi, morning. You're on the air. Turn down your TV. Don't listen to the TV. Listen to the phone.
Yes, good morning.
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 I'm at a loss when money is like when money from the central government is awarded to certain entities. Do you have to sit and talk again with central government to get it?
Do you have to what?
Communicate with central government to get the allocations.
I mean, every ministry...
When money is allocated to certain entities.
Are you talking about local government or just any entity?
Or anybody, when money is awarded to them, do you have to sit and talk to them again to have it?
I think the problem
sometimes years pass, you ain't getting money, and you have to sit and talk to them again to get the money.
You should not have to because it's a contract. But you think about it.
Because it means this to me. Because let's say in the case of THA, right? They have to go to court to get their money. I don't understand that. Because when money is awarded to you, you have projections, and as such, you expect that the person who award the money will honor the thing. Then you have cases of institutions being switched off in Tobago, right, from Trinidad, and you can't get to do your business. This is crazy.
Well, sir, the thing about it is, and it's not just Trinidad, the major... yes, thank you very much. The major awarder of contracts happens to be the government because they build the highways, the hospitals, the schools, etc. And unfortunately for a lot of contractors, if they press too hard to get their money, they may not get another contract. So a lot of times, a lot of the contractors feel kind of pressured to hold on and pray that they will get in the lineup. And that becomes a reality when the government simply doesn't have enough money to pay off their contractors.
And we know that it's a wider spread problem because the THA complains about their allocation, local government complains specifically about getting, at one point, half of their annual allocation. And of course, how long did it take for things like VAT refunds, et cetera, to actually then begin to be distributed, even though you're entitled to it under, however it was, the figure was arrived to and calculated.
Because the revenue is just not there.
The revenue is just not there.
That's the reality.
We have another caller from Tobago. Good morning, caller. You on here? I think we lost that call. Caller, if you could hear me, call back. Oh, hi, good morning. You on here?
Good morning. Listen, this is... Hello?
Yes, you're on here. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, good morning. This is directed to Karen. I looked at the launching of the Hope Party on Saturday. It gives us some thing there about this. Give us, in other words, it give us some hope. Now, Louis was pointing at a board there, asking for some suggestions and so on and so on. But I couldn't attend. But what I would like to place on the board, and I know he's listening, viewing, and so is Timothy, because Louis seems to be a guy, a ubiquitous guy. My hope is that when election time comes, we have when Hope gets into power, they institute two things. One is that we have a definite election date. In other words, on the first Monday of, let's say, November or July or whenever it is. And the second thing is that no prime minister should be in office for more than 2 terms. I think that will solve a lot of the problems, because with a time frame of a specific date, we will all, country will see a lot of things being done to meet that deadline that they know aware of, rather than trying to pull a date out of your back pocket and these things like that.
You're right.
Okay?
And just to let you know that one of the speakers, Melissa, spoke to both of those points, and that of course requires a constitutional reform. But and we're very grateful for your contribution, because one of the reasons for that board was to allow people to understand that when we say to empower, and when we say we want opportunity, we want to hear from you, and that was a mechanism for doing that. The issue of what you are talking about, 2 terms and no more, and the other suggestion, both of which were raised by Melissa, will require constitutional reform. But we do have 2 plans, a 180-day plan, which can be implemented almost immediately without the constitutional reform, which in some cases requires a three-quarters majority, so you can understand the hurdles with that. But once you have the confidence and trust of the people, which we hope to gain by the 180-day plan, which can be implemented immediately, and starting with the DPP, give him his staff. And not only give him his staff, because that is the sole prosecutorial arm of this country, but also give him a special unit dealing with white-collar crime, very much like like as they do in England, where they have both the investigative and prosecutorial arm working together. So to answer your question, 180 days, we think that we will get your trust and you will get your support for the constitutional reform to which you speak. Thank you.
And we need constitutional reform, but we do have a caller right now from Arima. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
My take is as follows. I would like to give some advice to Irfan Ali and Prime Minister Rowley. To Irfan Ali, in the meeting tomorrow, I would let Mr. Maduro know, if you feel that the keyboard is yours, go ahead and take it. Because America would not hesitate to run into your country and put you on a helicopter and carry you back there and try you. In the name of democracy. To my Prime Minister, you have to try to position your refinery and your trains so that you could refine the oil and the gas. Right? Yeah. You could refine both of them. Because Venezuela has no finances to finance no war. America has already crippled them with that. So all this grandstanding what you're getting on with, it's best to try and make a dollar out of the resources for you and your people to be better. And stop trying to, I want to say, suffer the Guyanese people and terrorize them, because for years they really didn't have anything and they was under pressure.
True.
And you already sitting down on some of the largest deposits in the world. So you come like the dog and bone. If you want to laugh at this, you're going to put none. Have a good day, people.
Thank you for your contribution.
We have another caller from point 410, so I'll respond to the ARIMA after this call. Good morning, caller. You on there?
Good morning. Good morning. You know, I've been listening to WSN for a while, and we have found that what we have heard from Karen for a long time is that we need to diversify. Why doesn't Tobago seize the opportunity to fill that vacancy? You know, I mean, Fali fighting about all kind of things, the autonomy, all of that. There's a vacancy there to be filled, your co-host there, or your host, you know, he has allegiance to Tobago in somehow or the other. You know, why doesn't he encourage Fali to make sense? You know, we have seen that vacancy. We blaming Rowley, all of that all the time. But there's a vacancy to be filled, and it's right there, automatic for Tobago. Why don't they concentrate on that to help the little 160 million that they make, and then look for autonomy? I'll listen off here on it. Yeah.
Thank you, caller. That is a good question. I'll say this. There is the Ministry of Tourism, but also, we still have the caller from Arima. I thought we already had that caller. Okay.
Another one, maybe?
Another caller from Arima, I think. Good morning, caller. You on here?
Yeah. Call from Arima.
Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead there.
Yeah. I want to congratulate Karen and the authors of this new hope. It made my day. This is long overdue. Long overdue. I congratulate you on the hope, and we are there to support. Me and my family is there to support hope in every way. God bless you all. We are looking for the changes that has passed us by so long ago. God bless you all.
Thank you so much. Yeah, you want to answer the gentleman from
Yeah, so we have two government bodies for tourism. One is a ministry, one is a division of the THA. So they respectively will treat with the tourism of ministry technically is with the whole nation. The division for the THA is for Tobago. Then there's a separate company, tourism company. We used to have the tourism development company. They split it into two, one for Trinidad, one for Tobago. So Tobago is making some effort with regards to tourism. And relatively speaking, you could say it's more than Trinidad, because Fali doesn't have an oil and gas sector that he has to worry about, right? However, part of it is, one, just to be brief, lack of resources, right? Because we need a lot of resources to market the island just off the bat. Barbados, Jamaica, they market their island. It's not Sandals market in Barbados. It's Barbados market in Barbados. And then the second thing is, and I hate to say this, but tourism overall lacks expertise, right? We have expertise in oil and gas, right? Because we've done it for so long and we've done it well. We don't have expertise in tourism. Private individuals and entities have certain amounts of institutional knowledge and expertise. But government-wise, they're basically trying to build it up from scratch. They could stick a new name, they could rebrand it however they want, but we don't really have the expertise and the skill set and the leadership, right? We haven't shown it more or less at all, as the tourism sector has declined over the years since the 70s.
Just remember the other Father Augustine has only been there for about a year or two. So who was there before? What were they doing?
Right.
Ask them what they were doing all those years.
We have a caller from, I'm sorry, where's it called? From Faisabad. Sorry. Good morning, caller. You on the air?
Good morning, son. Good morning.
Tishera.
First, I want to congratulate you on your big move. I wish you all the best, and I hope that you will come to Faizabad.
For sure.
And evangelize the word. You have my support.
Thank you very much.
The other thing is that every time I hear about this land date, Carol, is that it reminds me of the midnight coffee.
Why is that? I don't know. Why is that?
Does that remind you of Dr.
No, it doesn't. You tell me. I know. I really don't know what you mean by that in truth.
All right. I want to remind you about the visit to Mr. Ken Gordon's house at the wee hours of the night.
Oh, yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So this thing is shrouded in controversy.
Yes.
You know, and ever since that, I would not have heard. I think Mr. Gordon has gone underground. His image would have been tarnished to an extent.
Yes, that's true.
You know, and so as far as that goes, I think the Integrity Commission has something to investigate. They wouldn't go on a wild goose chase.
Yeah, I think
just
so.
like that.
Yeah, I think you what you had said that there are reasons to have concern, but I think this is too dogged, and it's too and the Prime Minister should allow the process to take its course.
Yes.
And at the end of the day, if he's clear he has good lawyers, then he will be able to ramage on the platform.
Exactly. Sean, I want to raise one other issue with you.
Sure.
This marijuana smoking on the streets, I find it rather difficult to understand how nobody has been convicted. And I was listening to a program on TV6, and the reason they are giving, Carol, is that they do not have the necessary paperwork to lay the charges on.
Oh, so they have admitted that.
What is that? What was that? Who was smoking on the screen?
So I think it's in general, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so what you're saying is a certain superintendent on a certain TTPS supported program has admitted that they don't have the paperwork to ticket people.
And that is
Are you surprised?
No, I'm not. I have known of this for quite some time. I just did not want to admit it publicly because you're basically saying, people, be free to break the law. Because I have seen situations where police officers have allowed people to break red lights and not do anything about it.
And it's not there. And what you're saying really, in all fairness to the police, you know, because, you know, they get a hard, I'm not saying they're not police that deserve it, but a lot of them who want to do it, but they can't.
Carol, I need to touch on one other point. I know that Petrotrin would have divested and would have barrier trading and heritage and what have you. But if I would invite you all to pay a visit to Faizabad, Carol, when you come on your thing.
Yes.
And I want you to look at the sporting facility, the road condition where the people live in Crescam.
Yeah.
It's almost impassable. The Prime Minister did a big sud turning for the Palaceco Velodrome.
Yes.
And would you believe 2 days after the election, the program was abandoned?
We are well aware of that. I had David Abdullah on one of my shows, and I'll just say this one thing. He said, and I am quoting from him because he said he was part of the committee, when he said he is very shocked that they closed down the refinery, which, by the way, never, at least for at least 10, 15 years, ever refined 100 and something barrels. What they did, they refined about 44 to 50 something thousand. The rest of it came from outside of the country. But what he said is 2 weeks before elections, they had this, no, sorry, not elections, 2 weeks before they closed down the refinery, they had decided to divide it into two companies. One company, exploration, which is the heritage part, of the what they call TTPHL, and the other part was the refining and marketing. So there was never, as far as he was concerned, any intention up to 2 weeks before to close down the refinery.
The other point I want to make, Carol, is that when you get down here, I would personally like to take you on a tour. I would give you my phone number.
Okay.
So you contact me.
Yes.
And we can go through this thing with a fine-tooth comb so the general public would have an idea of the neglect.
And sometimes people say it's deliberate. Some people say, because we did go around, we had our launch in La Romaine, so we passed through that area. And the conversation did turn to the fact that why are they letting all of these houses fall to rack and ruin? Why are they allowing? And there is this view that some of the houses and some of the properties have already been allocated, and that is why we have to do something about that procurement legislation, which is why we need a change of this government.
Call and leave your number with Master.
So I wait your arrival in Faizabad.
Yes.
My lady. I'm looking
with
forward.
our team, with the team, not me alone, with the team.
Yes, I want the whole team to come. I want to take governance.
Thank you, caller. So, with that said, I just want to go back to the point before, and this is probably going to be the only time I'll speak about it. But I just want to point out, as you rightfully were implying, the TTPS cannot improvise paperwork for tickets. They can't jury rig together a ticket out of toilet paper and chicken scratch, right? Now, from what I understand, when they say they have a shortage of tablets, they went digital and they don't have enough devices, right? So
what about scanners?
So when you see DNA. People breaking the law and police not doing anything about it, I think part of the problem is officially they don't have the necessary infrastructure to actually do what they're supposed to do. Some police officers might very well have no issue with this, but as Karen pointed out, the hardworking ones that do want to do something about it, their hands are tied, because this is not a memo. You're not leaving a memo to somebody in your office.
It's called under-resourcing, my dear.
Right, there you go.
That is one way to make sure that you do not perform. One way to make sure you do not perform is the under-resourcing.
And you said, and Karen's made that point about the DPP's office situation.
A million times.
Yes, definitely months ago when it first came up here on Talking Point.
Oh.
So with that said, I want to thank all of our callers. Karen, it was a pretty dynamic episode today. All things as we touched on a lot of topics.
It's true, and some off air that you might be surprised.
But glad to be here. Your smile brought joy to what started off as a depressing episode.
Oh, thank you so much, and I'm always it's wonderful to be here with you. And yes, when people say that Sean and I have a good chemistry, yes, we do have a good chemistry, and we do get along well, not just on air, but off air. And it's a joy for me to be here on a Wednesday.
And folks, with that, time to close the show. I'll just say this, America went into Iraq for democracy and oil. Democracy and oil. Oil in brackets, oil. Venezuela is big time oil. So I agree with the caller. If an ally should tell Maduro, give them an excuse now. Give them an excuse. Let's see what will happen.
better than to do that.
Give them an excuse. Folks, today is a good day to have a good day. Hopefully, no excuses will be given for conflict to break out. But we do have to worry about our internal situation. So start today to make it a better day with what you do, with your actions. But make it a good day, as my co-host always says. And we will see you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.
I'm Andy Johnson, and you're watching WESN, the content capital.
My name is Carl Media, and I'm the founder and the host of Ever Increasing Voice Ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.
Is it politics? What is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is there no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
We are WESN, the premier platform for Caribbean content. WESN, covering West, East, South, and North. WESN, we entertainment, sports, and news. WESN, available on Greendot 7, Amplia 118, Airlink 17, Bmobile 107, Digicel 21, ICNTT 105, and Flow 110. Connect with us at WESNCC or stream online at www.wesncc.com. WESN, your premier platform for Caribbean content.
States for the second time since vetoing a similar resolution in the Security Council.
Today was a historic day in terms of the powerful message that was sent from the General Assembly, and it is our collective duty to continue in this path until we see an end to this aggression against our people, to see this war stopping against our people.
In response to a Hamas attack on October 7th, which resulted in the death of 1,200 Israelis and the kidnapping of more than 200 others, Israel launched a total siege of the enclave. Its armed forces destroyed hospitals, homes and schools, displaced 80% of the 2.3 million Palestinians living in Gaza, and according to the Gaza Health Ministry, killed over 18,000 people, the majority of them women and children.
Right now, what we are seeing is an onslaught on civilians, the breakdown of humanitarian systems, and profound disrespect for both international law and international humanitarian law.
Unlike Security Council resolutions, General Assembly resolutions are not legally binding, but the Assembly's messages are important barometers of world opinion. Prior to Tuesday's vote, the Israeli ambassador accused the UN of ignoring the massacres committed by Hamas, calling the body a moral stain on humanity.
Now, staying with this story, we know that over 1,200 people were killed in the Hamas attacks on October the 7th in Israel. And in recent weeks, there are a growing number of reports emerging about sexual violence carried out during the assault. It is a story France 24's Pauline Godard and Luke Schrager have been looking into for us. They've been talking to first responders who were on the scene after the attacks, and they've sent us this report.
On October 7th,
Teams from Zaka were among the first to get to the scenes of the massacres. A religious organization, it handles the retrieval of bodies during attacks and conflict. Haim and his team say they witnessed a litany of horror, from rapes to mutilation and more. The list of alleged abuses laid at Hamas's feet goes on and on. Zaka would begin documenting what they found. Haim shows us bit by bit photos which France 24 was unable to independently verify.
There was a deliberate willingness to attack women. Here we see a woman. They cut her breasts off. This is her face, her chest. They cut her breasts off like this. Here we see another woman. They rammed something metal inside her genitals.
Each one as bad as the last, now etched into memory.
In another case, we found a man in his bathroom and his wife naked on the bed in their room. We saw this kind of scene many, many times. It happens that I took these photos myself, but I have another 5,000 or so that were taken that we had to go through.
Haim and other Zaka teams worked tirelessly for days, but there was another unpleasant surprise waiting.
When we told everyone what happened, we never thought for a second that they wouldn't believe us. But we're here to show what happened to those who would deny it.
On November 27th, Haim testified before the Israeli Parliamentary Commission on Sexual Violence committed against men and women on October 7th, unable to hide his tears before the Knesset. Shelley Harush also spoke. The police official in charge of the team collecting proof for the inquiry read out testimony from a survivor of the Supernova Festival. The woman was still too traumatized to speak in public.
I remember the terrorist was pulling her by her hair. The woman was undressed. He'd cut off one of her breasts, they threw it on the ground and started playing with it. They kept on pulling her around. I remember that someone who'd penetrated her shot her in the head. He hadn't pulled up his pants. He shot her in the head while his trousers were still down.
Further footage of October 7th shot by Hamas's own militants also showed up on social networks. The Islamist group continues to deny any sexual violence took place. In mid-November, police announced an inquiry into cases of rape and sexual violence committed on October 7th.
As for now, we are collecting the evidence in order to understand the whole legal, the whole evidential, factual picture.
Its complicated nature means it's likely to last months. Proof hasn't been easy to collect, in no small part due to the sheer total number of victims that overwhelmed police, Zaka, the army and medical examiners. Their priority was to identify the bodies so they could be buried as quickly as possible in accordance with the Jewish religion, meaning little time for specific rape examinations, though some pathologists have said they've seen fractured pelvises and mutilated genitals.
Most of the women who were raped are not here to tell us, okay? We're still collecting the evidence. We know there were dozens that were done there. We know that it was done in different places.
Despite such testimony and other indications, feminist and female rights groups around the world remained silent on the matter for weeks, notably including UN Women, something that left Israelis Natasha and Garance deeply shocked. The day after the attacks, they decided to create a committee, going by the name Rape is Rape.
I feel betrayed because I really am a committed feminist, and I didn't expect such a lack of interest from international feminist organizations. We have the impression that these organizations weren't as horrified by the situation as they should have been. The fact they didn't condemn it is one thing, but it's the words they used as well, which are far too weak to describe what's happened.
The women have two goals: taking international organizations to task for their perceived lack of action and being there for the survivors.
As a woman, I know that my Judaism makes me a potential target for similar atrocities, and that's terrifying. What's more terrifying still is the thought that we're not being represented. Today, that's what we're doing with this particular act. Support and comfort to say, hey, we see you, we're talking about you, and we're doing everything we can so that everyone knows it. It's really to show that they're not alone and that the silence is being condemned.
For Israeli feminist organizations, there's now only one priority: that alleged sexual violence on October the 7th is publicly addressed and ultimately punished.
That focus report by Pauline Godard and Luke Schrago. Now, Donald Tusk has been sworn in as Poland's new Prime Minister today, putting an end to 8 years of right-wing populist rule. Tusk is a veteran politician and has pledged to restore Poland's position within the European Union. He takes on the job today, one day after he won a vote of confidence in Parliament. But that vote itself was delayed after a far-right lawmaker used a fire extinguisher to put out candles on a Hanukkah menorah. This was during an event with members of the Jewish community in Parliament. Here's the reaction of Donald Tusk.
We are all devastated by what happened in our parliament. We all feel the burden of responsibility. Poles, the Jewish community. We fear also that many people and communities around the world watch with concern what happened in the parliament. It is also our common responsibility not only to prevent such events, but also to ensure that in this case, since Mr. Brown is no longer in this room, no one else accepts such behavior.
Next, let's go to Ukraine on the programme, where a volley of Russian missiles wounded over 50 people last night, including 8 children. The strikes targeted the capital, Kyiv, as well as the Odessa region, and left dozens of homes without power. Yinka Oyatade tells us more.
Firefighters scrambled to beat back raging infernos as they ravaged several buildings in the Dniprovetsky district of Kyiv. The damage could have been much worse had Kyiv's forces not intercepted 10 Russian ballistic missiles, causing loud explosions, while debris fell on parts of the capital. Like many homes here, Petro's flats felt the full force of the blasts.
We were just sleeping. It is fortunate that we were covered with a blanket. If not for the blanket, we would have been covered with glass. The whole apartment is covered in glass.
Over 50 people were left injured in the attack, including 6 children. Falling rocket debris also damaged the district's water supply system. It brings back dark memories of last winter, when Russia's heavy bombardment on Ukraine's energy infrastructure left parts of the country without heat, light or running water. 21 months into the conflict, and Ukrainians still can't wrap their heads around why Russia is doing this.
Let that Putin, let Dmitry Medvedev, that government in Russia, hear me. What are they doing? What's wrong with their brains? What's wrong with their heads? Today, in the 21st century, they can make such a mess and throw rockets at Ukrainians.
This attack is the latest reminder that Russia is still committed to this war. According to the British Defence Ministry, Moscow has been stockpiling air-launched cruise missiles from its heavy bomber fleet. This while Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky continues to call on Western allies to send more supplies for Kyiv's dwindling air defence systems and ammunitions.
Well, as we heard at the end of that report, President Zelensky is visiting allied nations this week to lobby for greater military support. Today he's in Oslo to meet with the leaders of the 5 Nordic nations, key backers of Kyiv's fight against the Russian invasion. Now, yesterday, Zelensky was in Washington, where he failed to convince a divided Congress to approve a new $60 billion aid package. But President Biden still insisted the US was standing firmly behind Ukraine.
We'll continue to supply Ukraine with critical weapons and equipment as long as we can, including $200 million I just approved today in a critical needed equipment, additional air defense interceptors, artillery, and ammunition. But without supplemental funding, we're rapidly coming to an end of our ability to help Ukraine respond to the urgent operational demands that it has.
Together, Ukraine and America can strengthen democracy's arsenal. And this is vital for other free nations and the US as it involves your companies, technologies, and technology advancement and job creation.
In other news, Argentina has announced a sharp devaluation of its currency as part of what the new president, Javier Milei, has called shock therapy for the country's economy. Liza Kamenoff explains.
It was one of Javier Milei's campaign promises in the run-up to Argentina's presidential election. The so-called shock therapy implemented to revive the crumbling economy was announced on Tuesday.
We
have inherited what we call a repressed inflation that is already unfurling, and that, as I explained earlier, is a consequence of the lag of the ultra-expansionary monetary policy of the last 4 years and of price controls that never work in the long run.
Cutting energy and transport subsidies and cancelling public work projects, these are just some of the measures intended to curb the country's record annual inflation, currently at 143%. One of the most drastic measures will see the devaluation of the national currency by 50%. From just under 400 pesos to the dollar, the official rate has risen to 800. In a country where 40% of the population lives below the poverty line, this will put a big strain on Argentinians' purchasing power.
We've been in a crisis for so long. Enduring a bit more, just to come out ahead, seems okay to me. We can withstand the blow.
It seems to me that the devaluation was expected and that workers are going to suffer the consequences. We're going to enter a complicated situation. I think poverty will increase and the situation will become much more difficult.
Argentina is also facing large amounts of debt, owing the International Monetary Fund $44 billion. The IMF welcomed the austerity measures announced by the new Argentine government on Tuesday.
Well, we end this hour with some sports news, kicking off with the latest football from the Europa League.
Le deuxième but, il arrive à la fin d'un parcours de Ligue des Champions, parce que la réalité, c'est que c'est la fin d'un parcours en Ligue des Champions, mais c'est aussi une projection vers autre chose, et toujours l'Europe. Et ça nous donne la place de continuer à grandir et à espérer vivre encore de belles aventures, parce que ces 6 matchs-là, ils ont pas été simples, il n'y en a pas eu beaucoup de simples, voire même très compliqués, comme cette première mi-temps ce soir. Mais on sort avec 8 points quand même, et on sort de la Ligue des Champions la tête haute.
Almost always I feel sympathy for the other coach, but of course within the competition we try everything to win our matches. This is why we are, and this is what it is. These are the rules of high-level sports and of sports in general, that we play in the highest level to win our matches. Sometimes you feel very lonely as a coach, I can tell you, but In general, I have sympathy for all of my colleagues because I know what it takes to keep a thing going.
Yo me suelo centrar e intento estar siempre en el lado positivo de las cosas. Y el lado positivo de esta última jornada es que en un grupo muy difícil dependemos de nosotros. Si uno se pone a plantearse y a mirar el lado oscuro de cualquier cosa, seguramente también encontrará problemas. Nosotros somos capaces de ganar este partido de mañana y nosotros estamos capacitados para hacerlo. Ahora toca demostrarlo mañana durante el partido. Ese es nuestro objetivo.
And that's a wrap then for this news hour. Thanks for watching and do stay with us.
Long kept in silence. Restoring the Mau Mau's rebellion's place in Kenya's history.
Whatever our fathers did was never reported in the right way. So people ended up worshipping the ones who are not the owners of independence.
The rebel movement that fought hard against British colonizers is fighting not to be forgotten.
If these stories are not taken for the real Mau Maus, people are going to live with lies, perpetual lies, and the true story will never be known.
Kenya Revisited on France 24 and France24.com. Africa News, your eyes on Africa. Bringing you the latest from across the continent.
Eye on Africa, presented by Georgia Calvin-Smith on France 24 and France24.com.
WESN.
Here is the WESN News on the Hour. I am Sierra Ali. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Prime Minister to participate in talks between Guyana and Venezuela's president. Social Development Ministry issued a warning regarding a surge in counterfeit checks. Tourism Minister sends condolences on the passing of Ricardo Drew. A 19-year-old bandit held and 3 others on the run following a home invasion in Karapichaima. Now for the details. The Prime Minister is slated to participate in talks on Thursday in St. Vincent and the Grenadines between Guyana's President Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali and Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. The discussions aim to address the persistent border dispute between the two nations, as outlined in a statement released on Tuesday by the Office of the Prime Minister. The OPM clarified that Dr. Ali's attendance at the meeting is specifically focused on matters related to the ongoing border controversy. This diplomatic engagement stems from continuous deliberations and a resolution reached during an emergency CARICOM virtual meeting held on Friday, December 8th. Both President Ali and President Maduro have confirmed their participation in the upcoming meeting. The session will be chaired by Dr. Ralph Gonsalves, the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, who presently holds the position of the chairman of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States. Expressing concern, the ministry has advised financial institutions, groceries, supermarkets, and revenue offices to exercise increased caution when handling checks, particularly those associated with senior citizens' pension, disability, and public assistance grants. In an official statement released on Tuesday, the ministry emphasized that the central bank would not validate counterfeit checks. It strongly urged all vendors to heighten their vigilance when processing check payments. The ministry underscored the importance of promptly reporting any fraudulent checks to law enforcement agencies. Furthermore, clients are encouraged to opt for the direct deposit service to ensure the swift and secure receipt of payments. Minister of Tourism, Culture and the Arts extended condolences to the family and friends of soca artist Ricardo Drew. In a media statement released last evening, Minister Mitchell commented on Drew's passing, saying that Drew's contribution to the industry left a major stamp on the local, regional and international market. The minister added that the soca fraternity and the carnival community suffered a great loss by his passing, with his years of work within the entertainment field, and added that his legacy will not be forgotten. Ricardo Drew passed away on Tuesday, December 12th, to an apparent heart attack in Antigua. Law enforcement successfully apprehended 1 of 4 individuals involved in a suspicious incident in Karapichaima. The late homeowner, utilizing her home security system, detected the presence of the individuals outside her residence on Waterloo Road at approximately 2:40 a.m. The vigilant homeowner promptly contacted the police, also alerting a nearby neighbor who activated his security alarm. Swiftly responding to the distress call, officers from the Central Division Task Force arrived at the scene. Upon their arrival, one of the suspects abandoned a bolt cutter and attempted to evade capture by leaping over a nearby gate. Law enforcement successfully apprehended this individual, but the remaining culprits managed to escape the scene in a red Toyota Yaris. Authorities are actively investigating the incident and are working to identify and locate the fugitive individuals. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I am Sira Ali. Thank you for watching.
WESN.
I'm Keaton Shaw, and we are WESN, the content capital.
My name is Carl Media. I'm the founder and the host of Ever Increasing Voice Ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.